Hey Lucas, I just turned 35, I'm Singaporean, I'm planning to buy a HDB resale flat. My fiance have already bought a condo. What happens when we get married? Will we get to keep both the condo as well as the HDB resale flat? This was exactly what happened to one of my buyers, and we called in to check with HDB. The officers told us that when you marry, HDB will treat you as a single family unit, and they want you to add in your spouse name into the HDB flat, even though you have already fulfilled the requirements and are eligible to own the HDB resale flat by yourself. Some people will say and argue that there's no need to add the spouse into the HDB flat because they are not required for you to form a family nucleus to buy the resale flat. And they feel that HDB does not actively enforce that private ownership check and is mostly based on your personal declaration to HDB. This is a grey area which we will talk more about later. So as per the call with HDB, we need to add the spouse into the HDB flat, and the spouse and yourself will be subject to the MOP rule. What is the MOP rule? It's called a minimum occupation period. Right now, it's still 5 years. There are no prime resale flats yet, so we're still talking about 5 years MOP, and you are not allowed to buy or own any residential properties within this MOP. Owners and occupiers are included. And according to HDB policy, the spouse cannot own the private property after marriage. If my client wish to do so, we need to write in to HDB to appeal to see whether the spouse can keep the private property after the marriage when he owns a HDB resale flat. They did not say what will happen if the appeal fails, but it's most likely they have to dispose either one. Likely that they will have asked him to dispose the HDB flat because there's currently a rule in place where you cannot buy a HDB resale flat if you're under 55 within 15 months of selling a private residential property. So how do we move forward from this? After the MOP, there will be no issue for you to buy private properties. You can hold your HDB resale, your spouse can buy private properties. You can also change your residential address from the HDB to your spouse's private property and rent out the whole HDB. This is the safest way where we don't infringe on any HDB policies. Though that will mean that you may have to delay your marriage plans 5 years later, or at least until the MOP finishes. On the plus side, you won't need to pay any ABSD, where you as a single owner owns a HDB resale flat, your spouse as a single owner owns the private property. As mentioned earlier, there's a grey area. Some people think there's no written statement that clearly states that a spouse has to be added into the HDB flat upon marriage. According to HDB Sale and Purchase Agreement in page 13, item 29.5, it is stated that the buyer must inform HDB of any changes in your marital status. So some people may say, oh, I get married, but we never stay in the same house composition. Don't need to declare. So if they don't add in the spouse as an occupier to the HDB flat, then there will be no conflict in terms of HDB policies. Though, in my opinion, it is not advisable to do so. HDB has a lot of powers, and they can choose to compulsorily acquire your HDB flat if they found that you infringe their rules. According to the HDB Act 1959, and if I'm not reading this wrongly, HDB can take back your flat if the owner or her spouse has, in the opinion of the board, ceased to occupy the same flat. In item B, if your owner or spouse has any time acquired any title or interest in any other flat, house or building or land, then they can take back your flat as well. So that means if you're married but you're not occupying the HDB flat, does that infringe the rule? Following that, and if the owner has permitted someone that is not an authorized occupier to stay in the flat, they also can acquire it. You're supposed to stay inside, physically occupy it for 5 years. Personal and professional opinion, I will not mess with that. I would suggest you to take the safest path, even though it is a bit troublesome, which is to follow the clearer rules and just be kiasu, just be kiasi of meeting the 5-year MOP before marriage if you wish to keep both. Do discuss properly with your spouse and what do you guys want to move forward, because even if your spouse disposes of his or her private property right now, there's still a cooling period of 15 months before you can even apply for HDB resale flat. You have to wait 30 months before you can apply for a BTO. It's the same as BTO. Some may try the appeal route, some may not. What would you do? If you need help figuring out what's the next step in the best way possible, let me know. You can WhatsApp me at 833-0360. All the best. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.